Once I tell you to whisper in her ear your favorite Mexican dish in the sexiest way possible, then you totally forget all about me.
I'm John from PGP Wedding Films, and welcome to Say Yes to the Best, where we talk to the best wedding pros to give you wedding planning tips. Today I'm with Danielle from Danielle Joy Photography. How you doing, Danielle?
Good, thanks for having me.
Awesome. How did you get started as a wedding photographer?
So my path into wedding photography was a little different than most. I actually got really interested in wedding photography after I hired my wedding photographer. I started shooting, I picked up my first DSLR, I think 10 years ago. And then when I got married, I was so into the engagement session of what he was doing and listening to him talking. He's like, hey, why don't you just come out and model for me since you taught classes? So I came out and modeled for him and kind of like started picking up things what he was saying. And I was like, you know what? I'm really into this. And like, I miss being a part of this. So I ended up starting assisting him at different things, ended up working for him and built myself up to being an associate underneath of him, and eventually branched off because I had my own style and wanted to become Danielle Joy Photography.
Very cool. So how long has Danielle Joy Photography been in business?
2014.
So I know your style is very much about getting authentic moments. Do you want to tell our audience maybe how they can get more authentic pictures on their wedding day?
So one thing with my couples, I tell them as they're going throughout the day to like be focused on each other and like forget that I'm there. I'm like your awkward third wheel for the day that you don't even notice because you're so in zone, you're so in love, it's your wedding day. So if you're not focused on me and you're just going about your day and like enjoying and soaking in every moment, I'm there behind your shoulder without you even realizing it, capturing those genuine moments throughout the day.
What are some things that you do to kind of put your couples at ease?
So with my couples, I try to joke around a lot with them. Sometimes I'll play music. If they're in the music, we try to do a bunch of things, whether it's during an engagement session or a wedding, during the portrait time, to like just get you guys to relax. And I try and introduce myself in the beginning of the session, and I'll ask you guys a couple questions and try and get familiar with like how your personalities are so we can like figure out what best works for you guys. And through that, like I can usually pick up something, whether it's like being my awkward self and telling stupid jokes or like whatever it is, to try and get you guys just to see that like, I'm your friend for the day. I'm not a wedding photographer.
As a photographer, what are some things that couples can do to kind of help them stay in the moment, even especially if they're maybe normally camera shy or they don't like being the center of attention? Because I get that a lot with video, like, oh, I don't want to be the center of attention. And it's like, well, don't worry about it, you'll forget I'm here. What do you do to kind of help shy couples maybe?
So with my couples, like I said before, like I usually get to know how you guys work and interact together. So I'll usually give you guys some prompts or do some kind of fun games with you guys. I'll have you run, I'll have you spin, I'll have you talk, I'll have you say all kinds of like weird stuff to each other just to get yourselves comfortable and focusing on each other, and like then you totally forget that I'm there. Once I tell you to whisper in her ear your favorite Mexican dish in the sexiest way possible, then you totally forget all about me.
What is most people's favorite Mexican dish?
Enchilada seems to be the thing to go to.
I would have gone burrito, personally.
Yeah.
But what is something that couples can do to kind of help you get the best out of their wedding day, to get the best possible photos?
That's a great question. So what I always say is to first off, put your trust in your photographer. You actually hired them for a reason. So put your faith in them. It's better if a photographer works off of their vision in the moment than focusing on a list on Pinterest or something like that. If you put your full trust in us, we will surpass your expectations by far. How
difficult is it when you're just kind of given like just so much stuff from Pinterest? Is that like overwhelming as a photographer?
It is. And it's overwhelming in the fact that I could spend 10 hours making one photograph look exactly the same to something on Pinterest, and it still might not even be there because the light might not be the same. You know, the location's not the same. But if you put your trust in us, we can create a vision that reflects you two more as a couple than reflecting this one image that you saw that was really cool on Pinterest.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I had one couple one time, they sent me like somebody else's video and was like, we want that, can you do that? And I was newer, so I was like, yeah, sure, I can do that. But I look back on that video and they loved it, but I kind of like hate it because it's not me, it's not what I normally do. So I'm sure it's the same thing. Like, yes, there's so much beautiful stuff out there, but you know, you do what you do, and you kind of want to be in the moment and get something authentic, not just something that they saw on Pinterest.
Exactly.
So what's your favorite part of a wedding day to shoot?
Oh, good question. I think, I love all the parts, but I think portraits are one of my favorites just because it's after all the stress of the ceremony and you finally get to see each other, and it's after all of the family portraits and trying to get those online, and then it's just the two of you. And sometimes that's the first time you guys have really gotten a moment to just breathe and just be together and like be like, oh my gosh, you're married. Like it's just cool to see couples like have that moment where they're realizing, oh my gosh, it's our wedding day.
What's your least favorite part of a wedding day?
Oh goodness. My least favorite part of the wedding day is probably the end of the reception, only because things are dying down and that means my job's over and it's time for me to go for the night. And I'm like, oh man, it was such a, like, I'm usually on such a high at that point of like, this has been an awesome day. And then it's time for me to leave.
Good answer. Good answer. What is the most difficult part of the day for you?
I feel like it depends on the wedding. I feel like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you.
So it's always different. I know for me, my most difficult part is like between the ceremony and the reception, because usually that's when like the beauty shots are being done, but we have like all of our tripods and all of our audio to set up. So I mean, I usually have a second person, so one of us, usually my second filmmaker, goes off and gets to do the fun stuff while I get to sweat to death like I'm doing now and lug tripods and figure out how to make sure that the audio for the speeches sound good. For me, especially when there is no like first, like there's only an hour in between, that's always like for me, like where I'm pulling my hair out and it's no fun. It's just like logistics.
So your least favorite part's my favorite part of the wedding day.
Well, when I get to film it, it's my favorite. I love getting those shots. And I mean, my Roxanne, who's my normal second shooter, she does a fantastic job, but it's like, that's the fun part. I want to do it.
Makes sense.
Great. Thank you, Danielle. And now we have 10 questions for Danielle so you all can get to know her better. So Danielle, let's get started. What was your first wedding shoot like? Not other than your own wedding.
Oh goodness. It was nerve-wracking. It was actually a small backyard wedding and they were running about an hour behind schedule and everything. So I was a little overwhelmed with that fact, but it was also nice for me because I could like take my time and like got to learn the whole process of things. But I think that's really when it clicked for me that I was like, this is what I want to do.
What is the most memorable photo you've ever taken at a wedding?
It was actually at a recent wedding, and right before the ceremony, the bride sat down and all of her bridesmaids and her mom just came right around her and laid their hands on her and started praying over her and praying over their marriage. And it was just such a sweet, intimate moment to be a part of. Like, not a lot of people get to be in those moments of those brides and just to see their families come together like they did.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. What is your least favorite wedding tradition?
I feel like there's honestly a lot of traditions that are my least favorite, and not in the fact that there's something wrong with those traditions. It's in the fact that brides feel like they have to do those things, and I don't feel like brides should feel like they have to do anything. Like, their wedding can be as unique as they want it to be. They can go with the flow, and if they don't want to do certain things, they shouldn't feel like they have to do them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
It's one day. You should do what you want.
Yep. And not do it just because of tradition's sake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite movie?
The Princess Bride.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Very good choice.
It's a classic.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. What's something people don't know about you?
So originally I didn't want to be a photographer. Originally, from the time I grew up and the time I almost left for college, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian.
Really?
Yeah.
What made you switch back to photography?
I didn't like school. I didn't want to be in school for that long. And I just like really fell in love with like being in such an intimate part of people's lives.
What's your favorite animal?
Right now, goats. We have goats. I've always loved horses, but
You have goats?
I have goats.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have other animals?
Goats, chickens, dogs, and cats. As of
Wow.
right now, I'm sure my husband keeps on trying to sneak some more in the house, but we'll see what happens.
Wow, I just have one dog and I can't. I have trouble corralling her. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. What is your dream place to shoot a wedding?
Oh goodness, probably somewhere out west, like Oregon, Washington, even go back to Utah, or really anywhere, like Scotland or something like that. Something just super different.
What's the furthest you've ever gone for a session?
I've actually been to like Utah. I've been to Virginia. I've been to North Carolina quite a few times. I kind of shoot a little bit of all over the place. Wherever I'm called, that's where I'll go.
What was the worst date you've ever been on?
The worst date? Well, funny enough, probably the first date with my husband. He's the only guy I've ever dated. He's the only guy I've ever kissed. Like, he's been the one. And the first date, he decided to make me dinner. And he got a hunk of meat out of the freezer, slapped it on the grill, and put like 30 different seasonings on it. It was like the worst thing I've ever eaten in my entire life, and he knows it. That's why he's not allowed in the kitchen.
What is the best reaction you have ever had from a couple?
So one of my brides, I ended up airdropping to her phone some of the photos from the wedding day. It was during the reception, and she started tearing up, and she's like, everybody tried to talk me out of hiring you because you were so far away, because I traveled to Virginia for her wedding. So they're like, there's other photographers down here. And then she just cried, and she's like, this is why I hired you. She's like, you capture the moment. And just like, I knew, like, I was just in love. I was like, this makes it all worth it.
I've started like editing like a little thing at the reception, because there's just nothing like just kind of seeing them see your work like in the moment. It's just not, I mean, it's always great to get emails and stuff, but it's not the same as like
getting their reactions.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Danielle.
Thanks for having me.
Danielle from Danielle Joy Photography. All of her information will be below. Thank you for watching Say Yes to the Best, and happy planning.